Hey, look, the new Holy Trinity has formed to talk about Broncos, Patriots, and guys, it's must win. We got a must win. Boom. Short intro. Zach, Joey, Brandon, Joey, Zach. We're the three guys talking about the Broncos today. Make sure you check these two out at Let's Talk Broncos. It should be linked below if you're watching on That's Good Broncos here. Subscribe to Let's Talk Broncos. You guys get over 2,000 subscribers?
Not yet. We're at like 1,500 about.
1,500. Can we get 500 more people over there right now?
Immediately.
Well, there's 22 people watching, so my math says we can. We can.
One of these days.
All right, guys. The Broncos play the Patriots today. We know the deal. They got to win out. They got to win the next 3 games to have any chance really to get in the playoffs. There's probably some dumb math scenario where they can lose one game and still make the playoffs, but I don't want to see that happen. And I'm no longer satisfied just saying like it's nice that it's December and they're playing meaningful football. Now I want them to be in the playoffs because it's like we've made it this far and we as fans deserve one playoff game. One playoff game. I want to ask you guys, of the AFC orgy of teams trying to get in, which teams, in your opinion, do you think don't deserve to be in the playoffs above the Broncos? Let's just assume the Broncos are going to get that 7th seed, push somebody out. Which team do you think deserves to be pushed out and the Broncos should be put in their place?
I've got some. The Colts. That's one that immediately comes to mind right now. I am dreading having to watch that Colts playoff game, whoever they play in that first round. They're a very low wattage team to me. I like Gardner Minshew. I hope he's the Broncos starting quarterback in 2024, maybe. But or at least I'd prefer it to some other options on the table. And all that said, I don't know. I think Shane Steichen's done an awesome job with that team this year. I don't know what's good about them. You know, they had the run game early on, but that severely tapered off. I think the coaching is really good and they're kind of maximizing talent. I think they're kind of like the Broncos. I see why a lot of teams a lot of fan bases around the NFL might not be excited about the Broncos in the playoffs with how they've been kind of grinding out games and with them not having a super special trait. But I care about the Broncos, so I'm fine with seeing them in the playoffs. The Colts, I don't care for.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Zach. I think the Colts are the one there. I look at the other teams in the playoff picture, the Bengals, the Browns. I don't know. Like, I can make arguments for them being better than the Broncos. I think the Colts, I have a harder time doing it just with everything they have going on with the backup quarterback in there. And like Zach said, I'm not exactly sure what they do. Now, when I start to go look on the bubble, those same teams as the Broncos, I think it even gets a little more confusing because, like, does Houston deserve to be in the playoffs more than the Broncos? Are they a better football team? They beat us this year. You know, it's tough. There's a lot of the AFC is just such a mess right now. It's all over the place.
I'd also highlight the Steelers. I think they're a not very good football team that's gotten very lucky to get to 7-7. Though I think you look at their quarterback situation, they're kind of in free fall. I don't think they'll be ahead of the Broncos all said and done. And then maybe the Browns. Their defense is still very good. I don't think it's like the historic unit it was looking like it might be for the first month and a half of the season or so. And I don't know, the Joe Flacco element of it all is kind of fun, but I just feel like that has an expiration date. And I also I don't want that franchise to prosper after what they've done. I do think it's made more enjoyable by the fact that it's Joe Flacco doing it. Like Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield are the best Kevin Stefanski Cleveland Brown quarterbacks. I think that's pretty fun. But I don't know. I kind of want them to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's the Chiefs, honestly. I think they don't deserve to be there, and I want to see the Broncos get in ahead of them. I may have found a scenario, a way to do that earlier today, so I'm not going to get too much back into it. And quite honestly, the way they're playing right now, I would also make the case for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If somebody else wins that AFC South, I'm fine with it. And that's a team I started to believe in a little too much, Jacksonville, and they've disappointed me and let me down. And I think outside of your Ravens, your Dolphins, and maybe the Bills, and the Bills are at 9 right now, all the other teams that could be in for the AFC play the same boring ass, grinded out brand of football like you were referring to a minute ago. Except maybe the Bengals. The Bengals might be the dark horse sleeper, and Jake Browning is the quarterback I kind of want. If he gives me one more good game from Jake Browning, then that's the guy. If, assuming Russ is out, and it just feels like, Russ has played better this year. We're in the playoff race, and yet it feels like Russ is more out this year than he was after last year, which is kind of crazy. But Browning and the Bengals could be a dark horse, entertaining team in the AFC playoffs.
Yeah, going back to the Russ point, I think part of the reason here is because I'm not sure that I've seen an AFC with worse quarterbacks. Like, it's kind of ridiculous when I'm looking through this whole thing. We're talking about Joe Flacco, Browning, and Minshew as the guys in the playoffs right now, and who Russell Wilson and the Broncos have to compete with, and they're not in. So I don't know.
Mason Rudolph
Yeah.
is a quarterback they're jockeying with right now. Bailey Zappi is like the three quarterbacks they play to close the season are Bailey Zappi, Easton Stick, and Aiden O'Connell. And those aren't playoff teams, but it's crazy the injuries. And I think, kind of again to maybe why it feels Russ is out. The AFC is kind of a mess right now, and he still can't separate himself. The Broncos have been on an amazing run. It's kind of hit a snag when they've played great offenses, because I don't know if they can really, or at least hot offenses, because they're just not in a spot to hang. And I think last year was very easy to go, okay, look at this clown / anchor we tied to Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. It's probably on him. Let's wait till we put Russ in a better situation, see what he looks like now. Now he's working with one of the best quarterback elevators of the past 20 years. Teddy's best performances of his career came under Sean Payton. Jameis Winston's best stretch of his career statistically came under Sean Payton. It's not just Drew Brees. Of course, Drew Brees, look at him in San Diego, look at him in New Orleans. He's consistently gotten the most out of his quarterbacks, and the most of Russell Wilson appears to be the 16th best quarterback in the league, and he seems to be declining, and it just this is the exit. This is the exit off the highway. I think the Broncos should take it.
Yeah, so you think he's definitely gone?
I don't think he's definitely gone. I wouldn't go if they close out with 3 straight wins. And frankly, I think the Broncos, the expectation shouldn't be hey, playoffs would be fun. It should be the Broncos. The Broncos should go 3-0. If I think they've got an 80% chance if they go 3-0 to make the playoffs. There's a chance other things in the NFL don't go their way and they still miss out. If they go 3-0 and they miss out, okay, fine, so be it. But if they drop one and that's the reason they miss out, they should really regret it. I mentioned the quarterbacks they play down the stretch. The teams behind those quarterbacks are also very questionable. 2 of them have fired their coach in season, and the other one has had a report that they've already decided to fire their head coach. They're just not going to do it in season. There's been 57 quarterbacks that have played at least 20 snaps with the game still in doubt. The win probability between 4% and 96%. So just not outrageous blowouts. There's 57 quarterbacks with at least 20 snaps in those circumstances. The Broncos are playing the 45th ranked quarterback on that list, the 52nd ranked quarterback on that list, and the 56th ranked quarterback on that list out of 57 to close out the season. And they're bad teams. It's not just like the
Who's
Joe
56?
Flacco situation. Easton Stick. Zappy is 52, and then O'Connell is 45.
Wow.
If they can't, if you can't take care of business there with a quarterback you're about to pay $55 million guaranteed, you have to look in the mirror because something's not right. If you think the quarterback's fine, I would disagree, but so be it. Something else is wrong there if you can't take care of business against those opponents with a playoff spot on the line.
Yeah, I don't even think the Broncos have to look in the mirror. I think if you just zoom away from the mirror, you got Sean Payton pointing at Russell Wilson in the mirror. So it's like, he's, I think to your point in what you're saying is we need to see 3 games that not only they should win, but hopefully we see Russ play in a way where it gives you confidence going into the playoffs that he's elevated some part of the team by his play, which has kind of been the knock, I think, through stretches and portions of games for Russ. Is there anything outside of, so coming up with the Patriots, is there anything outside of the Broncos' own doing? And what I mean is hurting themselves. Joey, is there anything that scares you about the Patriots on Sunday?
I mean, there's really not a lot, if I'm being quite frank. I guess the only thing that would scare me is that Bill Belichick's on the other side, and I know what he can do as a defensive mind, scheming against what I think is not a great offense that the Broncos have right now. That's really the only thing that scares me. But like Zach said, the Broncos should go take care of business this week. There's no excuses. I don't care who's coaching the other team. The Broncos are more talented. They have a really good. They're supposed to have a good quarterback. The Patriots aren't supposed to have a good quarterback. This should be a win. The only thing that would scare me is Belichick a little bit. I know all the stuff that he can do on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's Belichick. And for as washed as he looks and the fact he's going to get fired and it's kind of a mess in New England and all those things are true. The defense has still been pretty good. I mean, the wins weren't there because the offense is such a tire fire, but held the Colts, a playoff team, to 10 points, held the Giants to 10 points, hold the Chargers to 6 with Herbert. And then these past 2 weeks, 18 to the Steelers, 27 to the Chiefs. It's been a little lesser, but this defense is still very, very good. I believe over that stretch, I haven't seen it updated for this past week, but entering this Chiefs game, they were allowing the fewest points per drive of any defense in the NFL over the last 6 weeks. So the defense is very legit. And you look at a Broncos offense that does have a lot of problems right now. The passing game is pretty limited and defenses are taking away the few things they do well. And the running game is extremely limited. It's very inconsistent and inefficient. So it's just hard to live off of. Again, the passing game's in the same boat, so you can't really live that way. I don't know if the Patriots bring this game into the muck and make it gross. It could be like that Chargers game where maybe the Broncos win 3-0 or 6-0. Like that's well within the realm of possibility in this one.
I kind of feel like the Broncos offense always kind of functions about the same. Like really good defense, really bad defense. It just usually, but it's been set up by some of their defensive turnovers and those other things. So yeah, you always worry about like a Belichick coach defense. You worry about the current version of the Patriots defense. And last week against the Lions, whose defense has struggled recently, Broncos could only get 17 points. Obviously, they had the whole weird red zone play after play after play of bullshit where they would have been right around their average had they scored there. They're 21 to 24 points. They would have been right on par with that. They couldn't tackle anybody. I think maybe it was one of you guys I heard say it. It was like the second most missed tackles they had this season next to the Dolphins game. So my fear for the Patriots to beat the Broncos is them just running the football on Denver. And like my fear is that Belichick will come in and run it 45 times against Denver, and it will somehow work. Like, we haven't seen much from Ramondre Stevenson. He's been kind of banged up off and on. Your other choice is Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm not like scared of the weapons they have back there, but I feel like this game will be a oddly schemed game that Belichick does just to ensure they win in the ugliest, most boring and brutal. Like, if we thought to me, it feels like the Chargers Patriots game felt bad. This one might be more painful because of what Belichick's going to do.
Yeah. I feel it's going to be a very ugly game. This is one where if Al Michaels was on the call, you would hear his exasperation creeping in like 5 minutes in the first quarter. He gets so upset if the game's not good. This is one where it's good he's not on Sunday Night Football anymore. Chris and Tarico are going to be annoyed with this one. It's going to be, I don't know. My score prediction for this one's probably going to be like 10-9 or something. That's what I'm feeling. It's going to be gross. And I don't think the Broncos offense is going to be very successful in this one. Like, I agree with what you're saying about the Patriots. It's hard to be scared about Bailey Zappi throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster dealing with a hamstring injury, and Hunter Henry dealing with an ankle injury, and then handing the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott. It's very hard to be scared of that offense, but I think the Patriots defense has the ability to make the Broncos offense look every bit as bad. I ultimately think the Broncos would come out on top just because they have some answers. Like Javonte Williams has had his issues this year. He's way better than Zeke Elliott. Cortland Sutton can make some plays in the passing game. But this defense has been so opportunistic that maybe they can create a short field. And even if the offense can't move the ball 3 points in this game, I think we'll go a long way. So I feel good about the Broncos' chances to win, but it's going to be gross. I think the Patriots defense is going to make people not feel good about paying Russell Wilson a lot of money. This is going to be a game where the timeline is anti-Russ post-game.
And this is a Belichick with nothing to lose. I think that's the curious part. This is a Belichick that Patriots have already been eliminated out of the playoffs. They're like one of, I think, 3 teams in the AFC that have been eliminated in the playoffs by this point. And it just feels like to me, if Zach is right and Belichick is fired after the season, Belichick is the exact type of dude to try to give them the worst draft pick at all means necessary on his way out. He's definitely trying to raise that draft spot up to like 10 or something crazy before he gets out of there. I think he's just going to be throwing everything at the wall. Why not? Nothing to lose.
This might be his last chance to play a Sean Payton, another elite mind. Sorry, my grandma's calling me. This might be the last chance for Bill Belichick to play another or scheme against another elite mind. He's going up against Nate Hackett and Joe Brady in the other games. Nate Hackett, I think, is going to be fun for him in a different way. But I don't know, as a little send-off, like, hey, this is maybe your last chance to really test yourself, really draw something crazy up against a great offensive mind. Throw everything at the kitchen sink at him. I don't know. I'd be a little worried of this as a trap game if I'm the Broncos.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a trap game, but I feel like the difference in the Broncos' favor will just be Bailey Zappi making 2 mistakes that either give the Broncos a defensive score or put the Broncos offense in a position where they will score by just sheer default. He played a clean game like 2 weeks ago, but last week, one of his interceptions was just so bad. I'm like, okay, well, hopefully he can do that again. And you know, the Chiefs could have won. They could have had more points in that game, but they've got a receiver who also gifted New England the football. And I think it was either a pick six or it set up the Patriots. I think it set up the Patriots touchdown. So I'm banking on Zappi making a mistake. I didn't talk to you guys about it, but like from the Lions game, what was outside of say like the missed tackles? What was like one thing about that game that like you just hated and wished was better for the Broncos?
It's not even just the missed tackles, Brandon. It's just the run defense in general, the defensive line. They're just getting blown off the football on the interior. And that's been something that's kind of been, I think, consistent throughout most of the year. It got better in the weeks prior to this last game, but if you go and look at it for the entire season, the defensive line, the interior defensive line just hasn't been out there. Like, it's Zach Allen, and I wish DJ Jones was playing like he did last year, but I don't think he is.
I thought DJ Jones was like one of the few decent players on the defensive line last week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
But it was like you didn't see anybody else out there.
No, it wasn't good. Like, Brandon, like when I look at the Broncos depth chart, I'm looking at it. I see Mike Purcell, Zach Allen, DJ Jones, Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell. I'm looking at throughout all of those guys. I'm like, your best trait is being a run stopper. And the Broncos can't stop the run. It's really weird. I don't know what's going on. Going into the season, I really thought that was going to be where they were good. And it's their worst part of their defense. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. For me, like the talent annoys me. If I mean, like, the lack of talent is so like, it's so difficult to win games this way. I don't like on offense. All I feel good about is Cortland Sutton going up for a pass. Like, that's it.
Right.
Like, I think I feel pretty good. Cortland Sutton's going to do like 2 ludicrous things a game that help the Broncos come out on top. But that's about it. I don't feel great about the run game being efficient. Little dump offs to Samaje Perine when the defense is blitzing. I feel good about that. But that's like the 2 punches this offense has. And that's a scary place to be. Like, Javonte, what he's doing is amazing, but it's also not the same old Javonte. Like, it can be a gray area there, and I think that's where that's living. Wide receiver outside of Cortland Sutton has been a big disappointment. I think Mims has had moments, but he's not fully there. And then, everyone knows what's going on with Judy. Behind that, they've got nothing. Tight end has been a disappointment because Dulcich has been MIA. You got nothing there. I think the offensive line has been solid, but it's also not a difference-making unit. On defense, the defensive trenches are poor, as Joey just mentioned. Linebacker, you're paying a lot for Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, and it feels like every week they're trading off which one is going to be the disaster for the defense on that given week. I think you feel decent about the secondary, but it's just, man, when this team goes into this offseason, there's so much for them to build up. I think no matter what happens with Russell Wilson, because there's so much, I don't want the Broncos to be bad again, so keep Russ. I think whatever happens with Russell Wilson, keep him, move on from him, whatever. I think this team's taking a step back next year because it's so amazing they're this good with the talent they have. Like, almost every position group has serious red flags or question marks. It's wild that this is a borderline playoff team we're talking about.
I think you referenced something there that makes that it's one of the most perplexing things to me. And it's, why does Samaje Perine not get more touches? Carries last week, just 6. And he only caught 1 ball last week. Yeah, it was 6 carries for 37 yards. So he was averaging 6.2. Obviously, when it's a short sample size, that's a tricky, what if scenario. But it feels like when things are tough and Javonte's getting, 3 yards a carry, and again, it's not like it's necessarily Javonte's fault in those situations. Perine comes in and he's getting 6 yards. You hit him on those not even the swing passes, but just get him behind the line there. And where we've seen Russ late in games dump it off to him, and we've seen that work. It's like, I want to see that more early with Samaje, or just more straight up carries early. And it's, I don't know why, because it feels like Sean should know to get him more involved, even if that means starting Samaje and getting him going early, and then, letting Javonte have Samaje's role for a little bit where he's spelling him, and just see if you get more production from the run game, because the games that they do run the ball well, that's when the offense actually works.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been a single game where it felt like they were just gutting the defense with runs. It's always been short gain. But if it's a couple short gains that are first down and a couple more short gains that are first down, those are the games they've won. They control the clock. And then once Russ gets in the red zone, that's where he can suddenly throw it with like maybe it's because the end zone stops and he knows he can just get it into those corner areas versus like having to think of coverage past the back of the end zone. It's like, that's my safety net. And boom, boom. I'm going to hit it every time, but I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I think you're right, honestly. I think it's time to start spreading this around more. Javonte has gotten more carries per game this year than I think. Like, I haven't looked this up, but I feel confident saying it, than any other year. He's been a Bronco. Sure. Yeah, it's not even close. Yet I think that this is the Broncos' most complete running back room that he's had since Javonte Williams has been a Bronco. Why not get him more involved, Samaje? He has like been the 2-minute drive. The 2-minute drive is Samaje Perine. It really is this entire year. If the Broncos need to go down and score fast, it's dump off, dump off, dump off, dump off. Okay, we're looking for a deep shot. Dump off. Like that. It's the Perine show. And it's worked. It honestly has worked really well. I want to see him more involved. He's an extra blocker in the passing game. He's like an extra lineman. And then he's also can run the football. Let's get him involved in that. He barely gets any carries. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the coaching point, I noticed a comment asking what the record is between Belichick and Peyton all time. They're tied 2-2. They've played 4 times. Both coaches have gotten 2. And I think it's very likely Belichick gets rehired, but who knows if that team will play the Broncos anytime soon. There's a very healthy chance this is the last Belichick versus Peyton matchup ever, and will be the ultimate tiebreaker between Belichick and Peyton all time. So maybe both guys have a little.
Oh, they're going to play twice a year, buddy. They're going to be playing twice a year.
I hope. I think like if I was a Chargers fan, that's what I'd be hoping for. I think Belichick's washed, but I think he's like kind of exactly what they need. So that would terrify me.
I don't think he's washed. I think he just needs a quarterback that he doesn't have to fuck with. And Justin Herbert's, I think, good enough. But if you're the Chargers, okay, because like he's been linked to the Chargers and now Harbaugh is linked to him. I don't know if those are rumors or those are true or whatever. But if you're the Chargers, of those 2 coaches, who do you go? I guess, Zach, you just hinted you would maybe go Harbaugh because you said you think Belichick's washed. No, so, Joey, you can answer first. Do you go Belichick or Harbaugh if you're the Chargers?
I'm going Belichick. Give me Bill Belichick. Give me the guy that's done it. And Zach, you were just talking about how the defense is still elite. That's still really good with subpar talent. That's kind of what Bill Belichick does.
Imagine the Chargers with a good defense. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's
good situational coaching on the details, on like a actual CEO presence. I was listening to an interview with Randy Mueller, who spent I think 11 years, he said, as the Chargers national scout for National College Scout. He was like not the GM, but one of the very top guys in the front office. He said he had, over the decade plus he worked for the Chargers, he had 0 meaningful or consequential conversations about football with any of his superiors over a decade. Like and he said, I don't think anything's changed since. That's an organization where they're scared to ask the tough questions. He said it was night and day there between his time with the Dolphins and Nick Saban. Not that was like the biggest success, but Saban, where does he come from? The Bill Belichick coaching tree. Like, I think that would be exactly what they need, and it would terrify me. Harbaugh would also terrify me, but he's a little wackier and a little weirder. I think maybe there's a bit more ego there. Not that Belichick doesn't have, I don't know. It's just weirder. I think Belichick, the GM, would worry me, but
yeah,
I think he would be just kind of what you said. Like, he could make the Chargers defense good, and I think all the like Chargers chargering, like who would be the number one guy to fix that? Bill Belichick. Yeah. Look at what Peyton did for the Broncos this year with like their special teams, which was bad for 7 years. And like all the little errors I feel always piled up. They just vanished all of a sudden.
Yeah. Because he would have to relinquish the GM role. At least in the personnel capacity, right?
Yeah.
I think he can have his hands on everything else. But like, if you want to get weird, if you brought Belichick to the Chargers and he fixes the defense, okay, say their defense is great. I do like the idea of then the narrative becoming Justin Herbert is just never has any receivers. Like it's Juju Smith-Schuster's back in the AFC with the Chargers now. Just knowing that is the biggest area that Belichick and company have failed is bringing in and drafting receivers. And that's obviously like what you want for a QB like Herbert. That would be poetic to me. Almost as poetic as if the Raiders bringing John Gruden back. And if we could have Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, and John Gruden in the same division, oh, I am all for it, even if it's at my own cost as a Broncos fan.
It would be hilarious. It would be hilarious. Almost as good as having Rex Ryan, Sean Payton, and some other people inside the Broncos building. Like some of those rumors this offseason were hilarious with Vic Fangio. Yeah. And Fangio. That would have been a crew in those press conferences.
Oh, Fangio. You know, it's not funny. It's Underdog Fantasy, Joey. And they're sponsoring today's show. We got a link in the description. If you want to play Underdog Fantasy, use our code Let's Ride.
Let's ride.
It's relevant again. The promo code's relevant again because anytime the Broncos lose, suddenly the Let's Ride memes come back from the dead. So you can play. You can sign up over at Underdog. I don't know if you guys know this, but I did finally win a pick'em, which was really just a great moment in my life. Right now, they've got a whole bunch of drafts. My browser's being weird, so I'm not going to try and enter any of these. But you got the big mitten, the regular mitten. What's this? How many? $5 entry, $25,000 to first place if you're good. Nice. The Gauntlet, playoff weekly winners. One of my favorite contests, even though I haven't won the $100,000 weekly prize. $10 entry. They're giving $100,000 away. Boom.
I love that.
My pick'ems, though, if I were going to build one for NBA, I would go higher on Jokic, even though he did not hit that for me last time. I would go lower on LeBron, just despite the...
Can we do lower
Lakers?
on AD as well?
Go lower on who?
AD as well. Let's just go.
Oh, you want to double down? All right, fine.
Chicago have big on the Bulls.
The Bulls aren't good, right?
No, they're not very good.
So probably do the opposite of that, and then Fred VanVleet.
I like it.
I liked his press conference where he, I think, trashed the refs. So that's what I would pick. That's what I would do, just randomly. I would probably go higher on LeBron or AD, but not both.
Yeah. Fair.
Anyway,
maybe I have a little bias there. Not a big Lakers guy.
I'm currently in the black with Underdog. I've made a profit. So shout out the sponsor. Yeah. I recommend the insured bets. You pick 4 or 5 guys, and then you only need, like, if one of them doesn't happen, you're all good. I think we all have one of those parlays where you make an insane profit and it's like you're sweating it at the end and you miss that final leg and then you end up getting nothing. That doesn't happen on Underdog. That's
good. Yeah. Like if you like to play safe, I think that's a great one. Personally, I don't need the condom that is the insurance, and I will raw dog my picks and lose every time. But to each his own. And now they're going to say, please never say raw dog while talking about our very, very good company again. That's just the risk. That's the risk they run.
It's very true. It's very
all
true.
Right.
Yeah, raw dog, a very different company.
Ooh. Okay, I'm not even go down there right now. Broncos Sunday night, Christmas Eve. Last year was a horrible experience on Christmas for Broncos fans. It was the game that got Nathaniel Hackett canned, obviously, the Patrick Starr game. I don't think it'll be that bad. Like we said, might be ugly. What are you guys' predictions? What are your feelings for this game?
Yeah, I said 10-9 earlier. I feel like that's not ugly enough. 10-9. Hey, touchdown and a field goal. Other team gets 3 field goals, or maybe there's a safety in there or something. That's too clean. I'm going 9-8 Broncos.
There you go. Ooh.
Let's get really messy. 9-8.
That could be
Broncos
a scoregami, right, guys?
Probably.
9-8.
I'm gonna go Let's see. I'm thinking about this on the spot right now. We're gonna go 14-17, and we're gonna go Broncos. They pull it off. Big win.
Yeah, see, I spent that whole bit earlier talking about how disgusting this game would be. And Belichick's defense, he'll do some dumb game plan. Like, I imagine he's just going to line up his entire defense. He'll have the front 4 or 5, and then the rest of the defense will be in straight lines, kind of with the sidelines, knowing that Russ in the middle of the field is just never going to happen. But I think my belief that the Broncos always are going to do 21 to 24 points. I'm going to say 21 points for the Broncos offense and probably 17 for the Patriots. I'm going to go in with a little bit of Christmas hope, a little bit of Christmas miracle.
This is what I'll say to back that up a little bit. I mean, the last time I thought the Broncos were going to be in a game like this, it was the Browns, and that was like one of their most successment offensive games.
I think the best they've looked all season.
Yeah.
I think that was their most impressive game all season. I fully agree.
Yeah.
And maybe they have another game like that in them. I do think that was the offense's best game of the season. I don't know. Maybe they figure something out. I'm imagining slop though. I want to watch the forecast for this game.
You just read my mind. I was just thinking, I was like, they need 2 defensive scores though to get to 21. So maybe that's it's written. Is Greg Dulcich ever going to play? And what about Nick Bonito? Is he healthy? Is he going to be able to go?
Neither practice today. I don't know, man. With Dulcich, I'm kind of thinking it's a bit of a KJ Hamler situation there. I think he's talented. I'm never going to bank on him being healthy anymore. He had the hamstring thing last year. He comes back this year. Immediately, it's more hamstring things. He comes back from that. Immediately, it's another hamstring. He comes back from that. And in his very first practice, the back injures his foot. I think it's bad luck. And when he was dealing with this most recent hamstring issue, they flew him all over the country to a myriad of hamstring experts who considered changing the way he runs. Like,
right. That's easy to do.
It does not get much more concerning than that.
Like, can you run backwards, Greg? Have you thought about running backwards?
Yeah, we think you're running wrong. Could you change that at the NFL level all of a sudden at age 24 after like 2 decades of running? It's terrible. I'm worried for the guy.
Changing the way you run is insane. Yeah, that's an insane thing.
And it's Bonito, what was Bonito's injury? Hip or knee?
Isn't it? I thought it was a knee. I thought it was a knee injury.
Okay, it felt like the Broncos pass rush wasn't as effective with him in there. And I'm not saying like he's the catalyst of it all, but I think like whatever kind of like rotation they had going, they were kind of finding like a decent rhythm. And against the Lions, and maybe it's just the Lions offensive line's that good, but it felt like Jared Goff had more time to throw than I've seen any quarterback have all season, except for Tua when they played Tua. But like, I was rewatching the highlights. I was like, fuck, he's just sitting back there. Literally, he was probably thinking about shit he has to do later in the day while deciding where to throw the football. So, maybe Bonito's part of that, or maybe that's just the Lions line. I don't know. Patriots. We just need to get to Zappy. That's my point.
Yeah. He's been their top pass rusher this season. The pass rush win rate or pass rush productivity, which is
Bonito
at pressures and sacks and QB hits with a weighting towards sacks on a per snap basis. He's been their most productive pass rusher. Losing him is really going to hurt, especially because none of these guys are aces. They're all kind of number 2s, number 3s, and they're elevated by having that rotation of all of them.
Yeah. It's like, we just need to find that. We need that one dominant dude on the edge. We need to get beefier on the interior, and then the defense is legit, probably very good.
I think that's 1,000% it. I think the Broncos are most lacking on defense just up front. I said it earlier, but like the Broncos can't get a pass. Like even the pass rush, Zach, you bring up Nick Bonito has their best pass rush win rate. I'm just not sure that means a lot. For me, it feels like what's actually getting home for the Broncos when they do get pressure is it's Vance Joseph sending craziness.
Yeah.
It's Vance Joseph bringing an extra DB. It's Vance Joseph bringing a linebacker. Nick Benito's getting pressure through a stunt that Vance Joseph ended up throwing up front. Like that's kind of how the Broncos are getting pressure. It's not one-on-one. I'm beating the guy in front of me. It's a lot of scheme stuff.
That's flipped in my mind in terms of how it can be successful, because one of my concerns with Joseph coming in was that he is a defensive coordinator who likes to blitz a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback who will fucking torch you if you blitz him a lot. And now when I watched the Broncos last week, I was like, why are we need to blitz more, bring more heat, Vance. I don't care if you're bringing everybody. I don't care how disguised it is. And another, like, Brian Flores, I think maybe the Vikings defense blitzes the most in the NFL. They're one of the top teams in terms of how much they blitz. So, like, as long as you're getting home and it doesn't have to be a sack every time, but as long as you're disrupting the passing game, then you can be successful with it. And they were having success. And I'm not smart enough to really know whether or not they actually tried to blitz that much against the Lions, but it felt like they didn't try to blitz nearly as much against Detroit.
Yeah, and Jared Goff is really good at just getting the ball out of his hands fast too, especially when he's playing in that dome. That's the one thing that is big for Goff. It is cold weather outside. That Broncos game probably goes a lot different. It probably really does. Everything starts working different for Jared Goff, but when he's in that Detroit dome, like, he's a different player. The ball's in and out of his hands really fast. Of course, you mentioned it. The Lions' offensive line is pretty phenomenal. Sewell, and then Decker, and then Glasgow, who looks like a new version of himself in Detroit, and Ragnow, and they have really good players down there across their entire offensive line.
Yeah, getting Ragnow was huge for them. I was hearing some stats cited with Ragnow about, like, his on-off splits. And when he's with the Lions, they're like 4th in the NFL in terms of offensive DVOA, which is a great advanced stat. And without him, they're like 29th, ranked right behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's just, it was unfortunate for the Broncos that Frank Ragnow came back this week and was fully healthy and was a big impact piece for them. I think that's part of the reason the Broncos pass rush was so ineffective. Like, one thing that Vance Joseph is great at, maybe his greatest strength as a defensive coordinator, is drawing up these really interesting and creative pressure looks. That's going to throw an offensive line into a blender a bit. They're not going to know what's coming. Frank Ragnow, being the quarterback of that offensive line as the center, knew what was coming on every single snap.
Yeah, holy shit. I forgot. He had knee surgery and he still played against the Broncos. 1 week after knee surgery, Frank Ragnow back on the field for the Lions, does not allow a pressure, tells Dan Campbell he would play if he was still on anesthesia. He is a Dan Campbell lineman. Oh, that's just something I forgot, because I talked about him getting injured probably 2 weeks ago in power rankings, and then totally just he was out there and didn't even remember that he had surgery. So that dude is a fucking beast. Oh, Frank.
Yeah, that's what a first-round center looks like.
Yeah, he's good. Glasgow's good with him again. Okay, so we all think that the Broncos should win, can win, will probably win. None of us will be surprised if they don't win, but that's just because we're broken. We're broken fans.
We are broken.
And I think we also, it's like we don't care. Our season was done in October, early October, and we've come back from the ashes. So if we can get back in, great. If not, whatever. We're expectations were gone already.
Yeah, this is incredible. Doing what they did after a 1-5 start is amazing. Like, and it might end up being really fun football. There's a good chance they could finish the season after 9-2 after the 1-5 start and still miss the playoffs. Yeah. Like, I don't know, any stretch of football where you're going 9-2 is going to be pretty dang fun. That's like Manning year stuff. That doesn't happen all the time. Normally that's like the elite teams in the NFL that are doing that stuff. The Broncos might kind of luck their way into it, but who cares? It's a fun way to feel. Your Mondays driving into work are a lot better. And I don't know, a majority of them are.
All right. We did it. We did a podcast, guys.
That we did.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
End show.